if you think or feel that there's something to resist, then you will be given things to resist about. So if you are in the state of resistance, you will find more things to resist in your life. And in the same token, if you are in a state of joy, you will find more things in your life to be joyful about.
Hello, I'm your host, Aveline Clark, and this is the 6-Star Business Podcast, where we have conversations with amazing, incredible people all about what it takes to be 6-star, going beyond the status quo, doing things differently, and how they bring purpose, love, and impact into their businesses every day. This conversation is with the lovely, beautiful, wonderful Irene Cassiotis. And I have to say that because she's all of those things. And she's the brains behind the brand of 6-Star Business, the wonderful colours and the logo, the imagery that you see on the podcast. She has been a friend and a guide and a support and a colleague since we started, really. And she helped create things for us when we were starting out, and this whole idea of 6-Star began. And she's been, along the journey ever since. And what I love about Irene, one of the things, there's many, is her sense of curiosity and wonder and deep introspection of herself, of the environment around her, of life, of other people, and how she brings that nature to everything she does. And it's why she is so good at what she does in her profession and the way she serves the world. This is a lovely conversation. It's been a long time coming. We talked about her coming onto the podcast well over a year ago, and it is my absolute delight and honour to have her on the show this week. And I know you're going to love this conversation with Irene Cassiotis. Let's do this. Av and Irene on the 6-Star Business Podcast. Welcome, Irene. Thank you for joining me today. I am so grateful and excited to have you here. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, long time.
A long time coming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been around the 6-Star world since its inception, really, and you were a big part of helping the brand be uncovered back before, I think it was before we had the book published, and you were instrumental in that. And I'll let you share with the audience a bit more about the work that you do later. But you've been around me and 6-Star for a long time, and we've often talked about you coming on the podcast, and for whatever reason, it wasn't the time. And finally, one day recently, I saw a little booking pop into my calendar, and it was Irene for the podcast recording. And I was just like, yes, finally, she's here.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Almost as mystical as I had come, I have returned.
That's right, exactly. So but the audience were like, okay, these girls know each other. Yes, we do, but I want this to be a really great, transparent conversation. So for the benefit of all the other people who don't know you, Irene, I've got some questions for you to get to know you a bit better. First of all, where are you in the world?
So I'm in Sydney, just kind of hopping around those kinds of areas within Sydney. And then, there's a couple of other family around Australia, so I'll be in some other cities throughout the year as well.
Nice. And the really difficult questions are, who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Who do I serve? Because I know your audience, this is going to be a really long answer. The surface level answer to that question is B2B professional services. That's what we do with the business. We provide professional services. If I was going to give you a deeper answer to that question, it's that we serve those who are on a path of transformation and growth, and we contribute to their involvement, but we don't say that in our marketing. Because they'll think we're coaches or something. And what was the other question? How do we serve them? How do we serve them? So we facilitate transformation within teams and within their marketing and messaging. So when I first started the business, I was more surface marketing type things. And so we were dealing with how brands communicate. So what that looks like visually, logo designing, brand designs, the digital environment, and, you know, the face of the company before leads or prospects were going to talk to the founder or somewhere along that marketing and sales journey. That's kind of what we were there to do, to kind of polish it up and have them communicate in a certain way. As we were going through and developing our offer, I kept thinking to myself, how can we make what we do more meaningful and drive more impact with what we're doing? And what that led to was creating these communication strategies. I don't call them brand strategies anymore, because we're actually dealing with how a business communicates, not just to its market to get leads, it's how it's communicating also to its people. And then I suddenly realized, it's actually about mirroring and aligning the external with the internal, or the internal with the external, so that when we create that brand, it actually has authentic and congruent alignment with who the business actually is. Now, that might actually look like shaking things up a little bit and creating some more uncomfortable conversations, because we don't know if the director of a business thinks that their culture is a certain way, and then you speak to the team members and they say it's something else, or there's some pretty juicy conversations to have there. So that's what's lighting me up right now. And being in our 8th year, I really love watching our own involvement and watching how the offer changes and how we help people. And it's just about how do we make it more meaningful and more impactful with what we're doing. So that was my semi-long answer.
Honestly, if I was to have like a rating scale on the wall, a bit like the top, was it the is it top? No, what is it? There's a show in the UK. You know, the guys that drive the cars and they race them and do crazy stuff. Anyway, it'll come to me. And they have this leaderboard in chalk on the wall in studio, and it was like who can do the lap the quickest, right? And they have all these different guests come on and they have this leaderboard. So if I was to have like the 6-star leaderboard of how long it takes people to actually say what they do, in terms of like length of time, yours would be sort of in the bottom third. So I think your like lengthy answer. So what I'm saying is not so lengthy at all, Irene, and you succinctly like explain what you do, and it sounds really exciting.
That's good, because I'm in communications.
Wonderful. Oh, exciting. So you mentioned 8th year. Now, my next question is, can you tell us about the journey that you've been on that's brought you to where you are today? Awesome.
Thank you. Good chance for me to reflect as well. So I started off as a graphic designer. So I made things look pretty for a really long time. So I was actually employed in a design studio for 5 years before I started the business. And we were doing anything from wine labels to billboards to magazines to anything else in between. And then I offered that service as a freelancer. And so, I was just kind of making things aesthetically pleasing. I was the artist, the graphic designer. And so after a few years, I remember there was this one client who came, I don't know if they approached me or if I noticed it myself. I think I actually noticed it myself. So I had created a brand for one of my freelance clients, and I was just going about my life. And 6 months after the project had ended, I noticed a competitor with a very similar brand design. Now, that could have happened after I did the design, but I thought, what if it didn't? I probably should have done my research before I did that brand. And I just had this kind of thing where, like, how do I know that what I'm doing is actually is making a difference or not? What about all the other brands that I created? And so it kind of it sparked this quest, if you want to call it that, to gather as much data as I could in order to make design decisions. So it became about how do we create what data can we uncover in order to make design decisions? So it's not just based on a whim, or it's not just based on what the director thinks looks really beautiful and what I think, and so that we agree on what is aesthetically pleasing. Now it's about having a look at the market, and then it's about talking to, with prospects, and there's different data points that we can bring in with the analytics. It's the science and the art together, because if you have art just on its own, you're kind of just throwing things at a wall and just hoping that it looks like a Picasso. But if you bring the science into it, you have a really nice balance between, the left and the right. How do we appeal to and speak to the people that we want, as well as the different communication styles? So, I mean, it's a very kind of holistic way of looking at it. So when I kind of was starting to, gather these things around data, it started to become about strategy, about brand strategy, and so when the strategy started to come in, and then I grew the team as well, and then it became about, well, what kind of environment do I want my team to have? And, I have this awareness that, if they're going to spend so much of their life with working with me, what kind of life do I want to create for them as well? And then it became about, then if that's what our brand represents, then what's the brand experience that our clients have with their staff members? Like, how does that work? Are they even aware of that? Do they know what's happening there? And so that's how the service has changed. That's how the service evolved. And I think it's also about seeing how things fit in together. Usually a business will think that marketing is just kind of like behind a closed door, like over there. Think, oh, that's just the marketing over there. It's not. And then they think, oh, well, this is the business of what I'm used to doing, but marketing is like over there. But it's like, no, actually, they all fit in together. It's like an ecosystem. So, yeah, that's the answer to whatever question it was about our journey. And that's kind of where we've gotten up to now. So I'm actually at a really exciting stage now where I'm the kind of partnerships and the kind of people that I'm being excited about being introduced to. Like, I just came off of the back of a meeting with someone who does like leadership training and leadership training, one-on-one coaching, and like within organizations, conflict resolution, that kind of thing. And I think to myself, well, if our business name is Eloom Brand Communications, there's the brand segment to it, but it's also the communication segment to how the business communicates. It's how the business communicates from a marketing perspective and how the team members communicate with each other. I mean, I just drew up this partner map, but it's a concept, but again, how can we make more impactful change with the work that we're doing? It's not just aesthetics. We're not about aesthetics anymore. It's the end result. It's the end result. It's the journey is the value. The journey is the value, yeah, that's where we're at now.
Lovely. So it feels like you're really tapping into that human to human connection and the relationships and what is the binder, between people in those relationships and how they relate, rather than just how they present to the world.
Yes, and uncovering what actually is that piece, because there's this term of like bypassing, right? So like, oh, my business isn't that. That's not us, or like not being able to see things that you're just used to doing, or how team members are used to communicating with each other. It's my hope that I can challenge my clients as much as possible, so that through all of that muddiness and uncomfort, and then there's some kind of clarity there, and then actually the brand that is created out of that clarity is true and feels in alignment and fresh. It's not built on 10 or 15 years of old patterns that are unconscious. So yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Absolutely. What I love about you, Irene, is your ongoing quest for seeking clarity and knowledge and looking at things in a different way. And I guess that comes from having a very creative mind anyway, but also an intelligent creative mind. And so this has helped be this driver of your journey. So you're not just an artist, but the artist actually is in interplay in these in these relationships and within a business, which is really lovely.
Thanks, Ash. Yeah. It's, curiosity. And discovering new things and how things work out. It's just that keeps me going as well. Like I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of these conversations that these change managers have. It's just amazing. It's easy to make change in an organization where everyone's open-minded. But there's always a couple in there that are fixed, right? And so how do you navigate around them? They respond better to authority labels. Is that really the only way to get through to them? I don't know, maybe. Yeah. So
tell me, what was the catalyst for you leaving your employment job and then starting the business?
You want a tangent, Av? Here it comes. Love it. So, okay. So what led me to quitting my job? I was 25 and I decided that that my life needed a change. And I was living at home with my dad, and he was, experiencing mental health issues. And it was really hard for me to live there with him. So it was a long time. It felt like decades, but it was probably about 8 years where it was just him and I. And it was really hard to be there. So I decided to kind of re-script everything that I thought that I should be. I moved out of home, and that was a really big transformation journey for me. And so I went traveling. I went and, I had to throw out a lot of things because when I moved, I could only really fit it in whatever I had in that car. I had to get a new car as well. And so there was this whole, nothing about me was the same 6 months later because I had to go through this whole transformation in order to change my life and say yes to a different reality. So through that, I may as well quit my job while I'm here. So I actually just quit my job during that process of all of this transformation, not really knowing what I was going to do next. When I reconnected with my mum after 10 years, which was a really beautiful time in my life, she said, Irene, why don't you can live with me for some time, just a couple of years, we'll catch up. And that's what I did. I moved in with her, and it was a really beautiful rekindling. We're pretty much best friends at the moment right now. So that's really great. And then, so, I thought, well, since I've got the support, I don't really have the financial pressures right now. I could probably, if I'm going to start a business, I may as well kind of give it a go now. So it was kind of good timing. I was set up with some good timing there. So, between quitting the job and starting the business and taking, a low risk of starting the business there, I was fortunate to have that start. And it kind of started off as offering the freelance services for the first few years. And then was like, I saw I remember seeing the tax return at the end of the first year, and I thought, there should be another digit on the end of that. And there's no way I'd be able to live off of what I got that year. And so it was kind of, I started to learn more about, building business acumen, and, the numbers kind of do matter. So you still need to do work that's fulfilling for you. But I mean, a girl's got to eat as well, right? So, understanding that balance between, and I had some misguided years of being driven by numbers. And then I had I would also like to say, equally misguided years of ignoring the numbers completely, where, it was difficult for me to make change because I was stressing about the finance. So, finding that balance between those two things, I think, is really important. So that's kind of how it all happened. And after that, I was just moving into different places, and I think it's just, the balance between the financial security of running a business and finding, and I suppose it's also about the model of the business as well that you're running and what you're building. If you're still building that, is important to balance for me, and to be able to be focusing on the impact as well, because I know that I can make so much more impact with a higher profit margin, if I could put it that way. Like, there are so many more things that I would be loving to contribute to if I had the profit margin there. But right now I need to kind of scale. I need to put the systems in place. You know what I mean? I have my personal goals as well for my family life. So that's another conversation. Like, I really love to hear your response, or like your thoughts about that.
Oh, well, you know, the great thing about this, Irene, is that I'm the host. I get to ask the questions, and it's about you. I'm kidding. I'm happy to talk to you as much as needed and answer questions. I just want to respond, if I can, to what you said, because I think you've tapped into a really important observation of focusing on one aspect of the business too much, that then causes you to be out of balance or not realize or forget the other aspects. And you've obviously gone down that journey for some time before actually redistributing your focus. What's helped you to figure out how to redistribute the focus and become more in balance with priorities, energy, time, direction?
Breathwork. And it's not just the practice of breathwork. It was me sitting in the park every single morning for an hour and a half before I started my workday. And doing my breathwork exercises there, connecting to something that was bigger than myself in that time, because you can see better when you're removed from the problem. And it's not that I would go out into nature being like, okay, how am I going to figure this out? So I was going out into nature and saying, oh, I love being out here. And then the mind just works differently when you give it space and when you feed it good stuff. And when you change the biochemistry and all the little fireworks start going off. Anyway, some people will understand that, other people won't, and that's cool. So it was my personal practice of relishing in life and finding the joy in the things that I enjoyed, and making time for those things, and honoring the time in the morning, just as a result of following what I really loved. It gave me space to see balance in the other parts as well. And I mean, there's still times in the business where it's like, oh, wow, okay, cool. Maybe I should focus on finances for the next month. And it's like, oh, wow, cool. That was a little bit misguided. Maybe I should kind of like redirect that a bit more. So, you know, it's not to say that I'm perfectly balanced or anything like that, but it's the time away from the business, not thinking about the business, actually does help the business. You know, grow yourself and the business will grow as a result of that. I'm a firm believer in that as well. So it was my personal growth that helped with seeing the balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard that from many, many guests. And I love your story of sitting out under the tree for an hour and a half and connecting with something bigger than yourself and doing the breath work to do that. And I couldn't agree more. When we are working on ourselves, but we actually focus on the us part of it, and it's not a selfish thing, but it's actually what we need to do, then the rest does fall into place. And I've heard that over and over again. And for anyone listening who hasn't cultivated some kind of practice where you're devoting that time and energy to yourself, I'd highly recommend you think about it. Yeah. Start to employ that. What's been one of the most difficult challenges that you've faced on the journey to get to where you are today?
One of the biggest challenges I've faced? Okay, so I went through a 2-year period where I was really misguided as to what I thought I was doing in business. So what was a really big challenge for me was thinking that I had to build something that I actually didn't want. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this kind of experience before, because I think it's when you start a business, you think to yourself, what's a business supposed to look like? So you kind of have this model, almost a subconscious model of what you think you should be doing as a business owner. And when I started to build my business acumen and going into, business trainings and, they're showing me these org charts with like 40, 50 people on it. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I went home and I did an org chart with 40 or 50. There's like a finance team, there's a lawyer team. And I'm like, yeah, but you're in brand communications. So it doesn't matter. You need this and this and this. And then I had this striving to climb the mountain and push it. Can I swear here? Yeah, you're going to beat me out. I don't know. Pushing shit uphill. Do you know what I mean? Like life was like a battle and you have to work hard but you have to work smart as well, but you also have to work hard and don't sleep as much because that's the only way to get successful. And I was striving and I was in that mode for like 2 years, which is a long time. That shit ages you, Av. That actually ages you. I felt 100 years old. I thought to myself, I didn't go through that whole transformation just to push it uphill even more. And I was miserable. I was breaking down in tears regularly at night time when I was really tired and when my subconscious had time to like get out. This was before I was doing any reflective work in nature, right? And so my system was completely in its masculine, completely off balance, always striving all the time, trying to figure out how to do this thing and solve this problem and stress here and stress there. And so the challenge for me was thinking that I had to go and do and be these things in order to get and achieve the thing that I wanted. That was a challenge for me because I couldn't see that the problem was how I was looking at it and it was all mindset. It was all internal. I'm a very intrinsically motivated person, a very internal and reflective kind of person. So I always basically bring anything back to the individual and to me and how I see things. I know that if I change the way that I see things, my external is going to change, or how I respond to the external is going to change. And so through that, it's kind of like I just kind of let go of the ropes that I was carrying. And suddenly it was lighter. It's like, oh, I've been carrying that for 2 years and it was, buckling my knees and it was giving me shoulder pain and, oh, it's not there anymore. But it took a long time to kind of loosen the hands, to let the muscles go and let the ropes go, right? Like it's painful. Transformation is painful. That was really big for me because I was resisting life and I was trying to get somewhere other than where I was. I think that's what the crux of it was. I was resisting where I was in order to get somewhere. When I started the journey of appreciating nature and feeling good, like I don't want to feel this way. What makes me feel good? That all of that started to unfurl things, and so it was a choice. You can choose to push it uphill today, or you can choose to enjoy what you do. Maybe you don't have to work with clients who you don't click well with. So that was the biggest challenge, and it's the introspection and the reflection that led me into coming out of that.
Thank you for taking us on that journey. You speak so eloquently and succinctly and clearly, artfully, actually, about what you've been through and the why and the how and what you did. I was right there with you, and I'm so grateful that you shared that with me and all the listeners. I think everyone can relate to that, and it's probably a good moment for people to stop and reflect and ask, where am I resisting in my life right now? And what am I holding on to from my past that I actually don't need to, that's actually stopping me from feeling the joy, feeling good? It's that simple, isn't it? Or is it?
No, yeah, it is. Because if you think or feel that there's something to resist, then you will be given things to resist about. So if you are in the state of resistance, you will find more things to resist in your life. And in the same token, if you are in a state of joy, you will find more things in your life to be joyful about. I didn't necessarily change what I was doing. I just changed how I was seeing it. And then as a result, my behaviors changed.
Yeah. Did you have any feedback from people close to you that saw the shift in you and saw the difference of that approach changing?
Feedback.
And it could just be a reflection, it could just be, people noticed, or my mum noticed, or my best friend was, first told me how ragged I looked 6 months prior, and now all of a sudden, I don't look so tired. Can just be something like that. I think if they were brave enough,
they would have said it. The kind of people that I had in my orbit at that time didn't really quite understand business. So, and they weren't necessarily, we didn't have open conversations enough to be like, so how are you going? There was a lot that was buried under all of those things. How are you really going? We don't talk about that stuff. So, if there was open conversations around that and more mature conversations, maybe yes, maybe yes. Yeah, I guess if they did say something, I probably would have brushed it off at that point in who I was, and I may not have heard them properly. So there's also that as well. Maybe they did say things and I didn't quite hear them.
Yeah, and that happens to us all. But the great thing is you made the change, the transformation occurred, the butterfly came out, and look where you are today. You have used some language around impact and meaning quite a few times already, and those words resonate so strongly for me. And I'd love to know what they are for you in a contextually, or what brings you meaning, and what does impact mean to you through your business vehicle?
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I'm going to reveal to you my Trojan horse. Look, we do brand communications. Like I said, that's like the surface thing. Cool. That's what I can market so people understand what I do. For me, meaning and purpose comes in transformation. So I started to see the parallels in the professional work we do and the things that I'm really passionate about, which is transforming people and sparking or facilitating through that transformation process. We're here for growth. If you think about the spirit, like the spirit is here to grow and evolve. The spirit is here to grow and evolve. And so that is what I feel true for my spirit as well. And people who are growth oriented, they're identifying with that part of their spirit and their soul that is here to grow and evolve. We're here to learn, and all of those kind of moments of reflection allow us to do those things. So that's, for me personally, what that means for me. And then when I saw that reflection in the business, it's like, oh, well, branding actually transforms organizations. And then I was, that's actually the business purpose as well. And the meaning for why we do these things is to transform not just the organization. It's about the individuals within the organization. we need to look at the macro as well as the micro. What kind of change are you making to the community and to the industry and to the larger bodies, as well as what change are you making to your clients and your clients' family and your team members? Like, it's the reason for that business being there, and then as they become more conscious about the people from the macro and the micro who are in there, they're able to, I'm hoping, to make more informed decisions and more considered decisions. And, if they've embodied their own purpose to such a degree, then it becomes more front of mind. We can make decisions that are more aligned with our spirit's focus to grow and evolve. We're not here to accumulate. I think that was one of the other things that, there's a couple of years where I was misguided on. I thought I was here to accumulate things, not necessarily physical stuff, but, the finances, here to accumulate as much as you can, and there's, there's also the perspective you can take on, like, business is also, money is the lifeblood of the business. Okay, cool, I get that, because I need to keep the lights on and stuff. So there's a certain level that you need to meet financially, so it is the lifeblood, but it's not the only thing that's keeping things going. There's the relationship side of it, the relationships, the impact that you're making, the 6-star nature. That would be my answer for that.
It's a great answer. You went into places that some people might be a bit afraid to go. I love that about you, Irene. You're not afraid. You're this warrioress.
Nope.
And in every organism, whether it's an individual or a team or a large organization, there is a spirit, there's a soul. And yes, we're always evolving. That's we're part of nature, and we can never stand still. We are reflections of what happens in nature. So again, it's another reminder, look out into nature and you'll always find the answers, because Mother Nature always has the answers, right? That's another conversation. We can leave that there. another rabbit hole. You sound really alive and aligned, Irene, and that's exciting for you, and it's a pleasure for me to witness and to bask in the energy that you're giving off as you're speaking. It's really beautiful. Would you say that you're now more aligned with who you really are, like what you're bringing to the world? Do you feel that you are on true path, or whatever you want to call that?
I feel like I'm finding a groove that I'm feeling happy about. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was off the path before, because the path led me there. I just feel like, there's this kind of, they talk about like the journey of transformation, where you get really, really uncomfortable before you start kind of feeling like you've got your groove again. And so, you have this, this is good. I feel like I know where I'm going and it feels aligned. And then like something happens and then there's, this, like, how did I get here? And what happened? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then there's a learning again and it all happens again. And you hit somewhere at the bottom somewhere. And it's just like, oh God, I thought I was over this. Or how did this happen? How did I get here? And I'm trying to figure out how the hell this happened. And then hang on a minute. Is that why it happened? Okay, cool. And then you kind of start to work your way back up again. And then, I feel now I'm in alignment again. Like, I think there's a disillusionment around alignment and misalignment. I understand the definition of alignment from the perspective of I feel aligned to my purpose. I can understand that language and that framework. If I was going to take a step back further from that, if I look at the journey, I was always in alignment. I don't necessarily feel like I'm more in alignment than I was, because that's just part of the transformation. It plateaus, it goes down, goes up, plateaus, goes down, goes up, plateaus. So I feel like I'm on the cusp of the up and the plateau. So we're speaking at a really good time in my transformation journey right now. Maybe, I don't know how much time, but it's going to happen, where things are going to get confusing. I'm going to try to understand this, and I don't really quite understand that. And why is this not working out? And then I go into, what was the word that we used? The resistance. Why is this happening? I was in alignment before. Because if that up and down isn't happening, the transformation and the growth isn't happening. Like, we need to be uncomfortable and feel the friction in order to break out into that and evolve again. It's going to come. I'm going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as I keep doing the work and reflecting, I'll come back up again. Personal development.
That's it. Hey, actually, isn't that just life? Accepting the journey of being a human. Oh, yes. Okay. Why didn't they teach me that in grade school?
Yeah.
What would you say is your genius, if there was something that you felt that you could put that label to?
I would say my genius is I would just say communications. Communications. I mean, because that's also ties into it, psychology and perception, like how you communicate and what words you choose. It's the definitions that they have between different audiences. I think it's around communicating. Not just from a verbal point of view, or just from the words that you use. I think it's probably around something around that. I can't quite articulate that, which is interesting. What's my genius? Oh, I have to own it. I have to own that I have a genius. Thanks, Av. I got work to do now. Could have gone stare at some clouds for a while. Goodness me.
See, there was a reason you came here today.
Yes. More work.
See it as play. It's just a play. Yeah. What does being 6-star mean to you?
Being 6-star. At the moment, because I think that answer can change over time. At the moment, I think 6-star means I think it's raw transparency. I think it's raw transparency. I'm going to use this kind of story as a bit of a case study here, because I had a choice as to how I would respond to something. And if I think about how I responded, I would say that would be the difference between 6-star and just any other business. So I just have to think about how much of this is covered by some agreements to be as general as I can. I wasn't sure about the intentions of a potential client of mine, and I could have just let it go, but instead I decided to ask them about it. I think it's about having those genuine conversations and those transparent conversations, and having the courage enough to have those kinds of conversations, as well as keeping yourself accountable for keeping yourself accountable and taking responsibility for your part in things. being open-minded enough to take feedback, and having the awareness enough Another word salad, Aveline. There's something in there. There's a couple of points in there, but 6-star, yeah. There's so much fluff. There's so much fluff around business. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you look at, the sales cycles and this is how we want you to perceive us so that you say yes to our work. And I mean, we need to make money and make the sale, but we also don't want to look like that. Do you know what I mean? There's the fluff, and there's the fluff of the marketing, inflation, inflating the business so that they can, attract the clients that they want, or just saying what they think that they should be saying to attract the people that they want. Yeah. Is it real? It's fluff. It's not real. It's not. I think 6-star is seeing past all of that and just being real with where you're at, owning where you're at and taking responsibility for that and doing what needs to be done in order to be the 6-star version of yourself that you are growing into, not the 6-star version that you want to be, yeah.
Sounds like a very mature and yet refreshing way to be.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see a compilation of all of the 6-star answers that you've gotten and see if you can create some kind of thing out of that. That would be super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what came to me as you were answering was, we're just taking off our labels, off our hats, off the veneers or the walls or the front shop window of our businesses, and we're actually just being people, because business is effectively people communicating needs, problems, solutions, but just being honest and just letting go of all the judgments and the expectations and the labels and the egos and the fears and the judgments. That's pretty easy, right? And then being that responsible human, like you said, use the word accountability, to have that raw conversation.
There's also business owners who they go the very blasé, oh yeah, no, I don't give a shit about that stuff. Oh, I just do it and say whatever I want. And then there's also the question of how much accountability, how much awareness. Do you know what I mean? There's still a question around that as well. So there's different ways that people can manage that. Some people don't do those things. I know some people who avoid networking at all costs because they can't stand I can't do that. Can't do that. It's too much fluff. It's too much fluffing around. The egos trying to sell each other, dropping name droppings and all this. I can't do it. Can't do it. But then on the other side, it's the accountability. Okay, if it's not about, if you want to avoid the fluff, then what are you moving towards? It's not just about avoiding something. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like it a lot. I'll ask you that question in 6 months or 12 months' time and see what it is then.
I wonder who I'll be next.
I know.
That's the exciting part. I wonder who I'll be in 6 months' time.
Oh, the joys. I could just keep talking. I have a question because I'm fascinated to know this. If you have an answer, of course. What's the vision? What's the world look like in the future for you, for Irene?
My personal life?
Maybe the ideal world. Ideal world. What are you creating? World? Yeah.
Okay.
What are you creating?
So I'm going to pick up my drop pin and I'm going to shoot it all the way forward in my timeline and drop it till I'm about 50-something. So the communication business is serving purpose-driven, philanthropic organizations we're partnering with some impactful and passionate other businesses as well, and we have those programs in place so that the work that we're doing is intentional and impactful. There's something around our profits going into some kind of initiatives. I don't know what that looks like yet, but there's something in there about that needs to happen. And this is what I meant by the Trojan horse earlier. So at the moment, I'm doing some underground drumming. So I've got a shamanic drum, and I go out and I get lost in trance. And I've done some journeys for other people with this, and they might come out of that being like, that was interesting. And this one particular person I'm thinking of, okay, cool, well, that was a bit strange, but whatever. And she goes about her life, and 6 months later she goes, Irene, I've changed this. I've been sleeping as much as I've ever slept in 6 years. Her energy's completely changed. She started to do this. She's found a partner, all this. She goes, the only thing that I can pinpoint that back was when you sat me on that cliff, and I don't know what you did that day. Like there's other avenues and other ways that we can transform. And usually through the branding workshops, I'm asking questions like, why did you start the business, and what kind of impact do you want to make? And every now and again, I'll kind of get some answers which allude to this understanding that, there's some kind of universal wisdom at play with that. Sometimes when I pull that thread, it can lead into a spiritual conversation. So my hope and my vision for when I'm, let's say, 56, is that this business is operating to such a degree that I'm within my Trojan horse in order to identify those people, because those people who I've been helping up until this point, they're very corporate. They're at a very corporate level, and it's, you just wouldn't know unless you get into those personal questions with them. And on the inside, they're like, well, it used to feel really fulfilling and now it doesn't. And I've been thinking about why I'm here, and I don't really, I feel like there's more to this. Like, I've been doing this for 20 years. You think that is enough? Is that I don't know. Interesting. Maybe we should have a chat somewhere else outside of this brand workshop. Do you know what I mean? It just kind of creates that little bit. And then those other experiences that, I can help facilitate with the individual there, that's spirit evolvement. We can evolve as human beings and as skills, but then there's the spiritual evolvement as well. So I feel like that will come into play later on in my life.
Lovely. Maybe you'll be known for that at that time. And you never know, the world might be in a different place where more people are more in touch and evolved with that spirit, their own spirit and the spirit of their business. And therefore it's natural and organic for them to reach out to an organization like yours and then seek out you first doing a drumming workshop before a boardroom workshop, right?
Wow. Yeah. The other way around. Didn't think of it that way. Yeah, you're right. Wow.
So that's exciting. You're welcome. I look forward to that. Yeah. I look forward to being a witness to that journey. Yeah. It's always fascinating and interesting and fun. Speaking with you, Irene, I get so much from it. And I'm just really grateful that we met when we met, and to have a fellow soul journeyer to be sort of witness to my journey as well. So thank you.
Me too, Av. Yeah, a pleasure, an honor and a pleasure. Yeah.
So as we come to a close, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with? It could be an offer, it could be how they can reach you, and even a tidbit of advice, open to all of the above.
Okay. Well, if you want to start a conversation, I'm a pretty open kind of gal, so just you can reach out to me over LinkedIn or find me on on LinkedIn. So it's Irene Cassiotis, IreneCassiotis. Otherwise, you can just shoot me an email directly. I welcome them all onto whatever capacity, because we've covered so many topics. It could be actually about anything. Do you maybe want to drop my email in the...
We'll have all of your contact details in the show notes below this episode,
cool.
whether it's in YouTube or on the podcast page. So,
yep. So just divert your eyes slightly downwards and you'll see those links.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. Yeah. I think, I don't think that there's anything else that I could I think I've given a good flavour.
If there was one little tidbit or a piece of advice, maybe it's an internal positive kind of mantra that you have, or something you'd like to leave people with, what could that be?
There is always something that I can take out of this. There's always something that I can take out of this. What's the learning? What has this shown me? What has this shown me? There's always something that's happening next for me. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Av.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm really grateful. Yeah. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much.